a lot of hip work. Oh man, that is good.
That felt amazing, Jay. You look good.
You look good.
I'd like to groove anywhere, anytime, even at 8:30 in the morning, 9 in the morning.
Exactly.
It sounds like it's showtime.
It is. It's showtime. Hit it, Reese.
Kicking it with the Crosbys.
All right. Welcome to Kicking It with the Crosbys. I'm Mason Crosby, my brother Reese Crosby, and
what's up?
We are honored today to be joined by our guest, Jay DeMerit. Jay, say hi. You are our first guest, so we're just getting this thing started, and we're pumped to have you.
Well, I'm honored, to have Green Bay, one of the Green Bay Packers' finest of all-time players.
Are you talking about yourself? Wait, the Green Bay player? Because this is going to be a fun one because of all those connections, like that. The fact that you are from Green Bay, grew up there, and I guess Howard, Swamico area, went to Bayport High School, man, and then how we got connected over the years and all the little pieces that go with that. But so just I think we'd be happy to hear you kind of lead off with your story from growing up there in Green Bay and being a Packers fan and what that looks like, and we'll kind of jump around those things as we talk about what Green Bay life is like, especially with you growing up there and being a Packers fan.
Yeah, for sure. I think you guys have been to Green Bay for so many years, and it's a special place for so many reasons. On paper, people be like, Green Bay, like, what are you guys talking about? There's a million other places, but when you actually get there, you realize that it's community driven. You see the people, the blue collar work ethic, this ability to care and actually ask people how they are and believe it.
Yeah,
is the best way I'd say about Green Bay. It was an incredible place to grow up. Again, like most kids, especially in Wisconsin, I was a multi-sport athlete. I didn't play soccer per se until I was basically 18. I grew up playing football. My dad was the track coach at Bayport, and so I come from a track family, long line of Wisconsin track coaches, on my dad's side. So I grew up kind of playing everything. I played basketball in the winters, as we know. You're not really supposed to go outside in Wisconsin in December and January.
Not at all. Unless you're playing for the Packers, right? Or watching the Packers games. I mean, I think those are the only things that are allowed.
That's right. Sunday from noon to 3 is about your window to go outside.
Exactly. Well, I was watching a little bit of your Rise and Shine, documentary, and kind of talking about the journey of your football career, and it was great, the kind of start of it. Just emphasizing that growing up in Wisconsin in general, but in the Green Bay area, and what that means to people to be Packers fans, and what Sundays look like, and what all kind of life revolves around. I think a lot of people think they're fans until they come to Green Bay and they see like what that culture is and what it's about. And for me, and we'll talk more about your journey through soccer and all that, but for me, it's probably the closest thing to what European football is, and like kind of the fandom, like the city, and like the dedication that town has to that organization is just it's unmatched in NFL football.
100%. And I think, and in a way, kind of long story short about like me coming from there, but also just having kind of the fabric of what Green Bay is all about. And as I moved later to Watford and having a professional contract and becoming captains of Watford in the Premier League, it was amazing to go to a place. And again, the famous Watford was owned by Elton John and Graham Taylor, who was the manager that famously brought Watford from the 4th division to the 1st. But what they are actually most synonymous for in London is the original family club. And what that means is that actually Graham Taylor and Elton John were the first owner-manager duo that put community initiatives into the contracts of the players. And so when I grew up in Green Bay, you guys know that this is something that is so community driven. It's built from the fabric of the community first, and the rest expands from there. And I think that is rare in sports, and I think that's especially rare, in the game that I ended up playing, which was soccer. And so, for me to be able to be captain of that club, and I know that was part of the reason I was selected as captain of that club, because I got that. I understood what it was like to sign all the autographs, let kids ride your bikes, do all the things, visit the schools, visit the hospitals, but do it with true purpose and care. And so with that, it allows that community fabric to really be built. And I think being from Green Bay really allowed me to kind of hit the ground running in a leadership role, even all the way across the pond in England. And I'm very thankful and very grateful to be from a place like that, because it really did set the foundation of everything that I am. But as I came into a player leader, it really helped me with the fabric of who I was and my ability to lead.
Yeah. Well said. That's awesome. Reese, you got anything right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, like you kind of mentioned, just the similarities between Green Bay and who they are as that community, that, just small town feel, is what a lot of people don't realize is how Lambeau is set up is literally in neighborhoods. Like, they have Titletown now, so that's, kind of a little more commercialized, but literally there's just houses surrounding the entire stadium. And I think that is very unique in American sports. Usually it's, miles of parking lots, and it's difficult to get to and things like that. And then you go over to England and it's the same exact thing. Like, you are in the middle of houses, you're in the middle of neighborhoods. And I think it is that community aspect, that community feel, that is very, very special. And so, I agree with you. The similarity is very, very unique. And it again just has that very, very special feel to it, that community feel.
Mm-hmm. Well, now we just got to get Elton John to come to a Packers game.
That's it.
Do you think he's come? Sure, I bet he's come to a game.
I'm pretty sure Elton John is a Packers fan. All right. If I was to guess,
Reese is saying it's probably true. And you won't. Yeah. Don't look it up. Don't check. But Reese usually knows those things.
Yeah, he does. He doesn't advertise it, so it definitely won't be on Google. But I have it under good authority that Elton John is also a Green Bay Packers fan. So
okay,
yeah.
So we got that. We got that down. But I do want to, Jay, I want to go back a little bit and talk about your journey in soccer. Obviously we hit on Green Bay, and then you went to University of Illinois in Chicago. And I watched the Rise and Shine documentary, but before on your journey, but was as we were talking, going to talk to you, I just started kind of hitting some things, and it was great. I saw Aldo Santaga, on there, and you talking about him and being your coach there in Green Bay. He was, what an amazing guy, and like the whole Santaga family and the fabric there in Green Bay and their soccer background, and then. Yeah, so you go to University of Illinois in Chicago as, you were a forward, midfielder, goal scorer. Kind of that's what you'd always been, right? And then they tell you, what was that, your sophomore, junior year? They're like, hey, you think you should try out, playing center back, just let's see what that's about. And, talk about kind of, transitioning in that and like your mindset, because what I love about everything that you talk about and what you've already talked about so far on this is just the mindset that you have when you approach something. And, whenever something comes up, you take it with stride with it, as an adventure mindset. And I just want everyone to kind of hear how you approach, all these steps on your journey.
Totally. And I think, everyone, the first thing I know about journeys is, the moment you start comparing your journey to somebody else's, you're already taking energy and time away from yours. And so I think, that's always one of my number one messages in kind of, how, because people always ask, like, how did you actually do it? Like, no one's really doing that stuff. How did you do it? And I said, well, first, I had to have like an inquisitive mind and a learning mindset. And that involved taking on channels and challenges like, hey, freshman, you've never played in the back before, but you're not going to play really this year unless you do. And, have you ever thought about doing something like that? And so for me, that's the first ego check is, this whole identity piece that we all suffer from. Who am I? And am I believing everyone else, or am I believing what's inside here? And I think that's a really interesting conversation we all have with ourselves about where we're going, dreams we have, et cetera, et cetera. And I think, for me, I wanted to go to university. I wanted to get a university scholarship. That was my first goal. And when I got that, again, thank you to Aldo for helping me get there. It was, again, it was a minimal scholarship. I was essentially a walk-on, but I got a little bit of money, so I got to, sign a paper and to say I got a scholarship. Okay, goal one. But now it's like, okay, now how do you contribute and how do you come into a university system in Chicago, which, again, great players, great region of soccer. And there's this kid from Green Bay who really has played soccer 3 months a year for his whole life. And now all of a sudden I'm getting thrust into this environment where my identity gets checked right away. It was actually, Mason, my first year. So it was my first preseason tournament, Jacksonville, Florida. We had an injury and a red card to two of the defenders. And they're like, coach calls me in his office before our third game. And he's like, hey, we're out of players. You seem like the most well-rounded athlete. Have you ever done a marking back system or anything like that before? And I said, funny enough, and again, I just go into my own experience and I say, am I capable of this? Am I brave enough to stand in front of this decision? And am I going to trust somebody I know that knows more about the game than me to believe them? And then this is where the identity crisis and the ego conversation really becomes important.
Yeah.
And so ideally, yes, I should trust that person who's been coaching at college level for 20 years. What am I going to be like? No, I'm a forward. But he says, if you can try it. And I say, in my brain, I played basketball my whole life. And my job on the basketball court was to mark their scoring forward, run around, mark them up, do one-on-one stuff. I guess that's same. I guess that the box in a soccer field is very similar to a 3-point lane in a basketball court. And so I just kind of, all those pieces kind of fit. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to sit and ride the bench as a freshman. I want to play. And so I thought I'd give it a shot. And literally we got to the final of that tournament and I realized within 3 games, I was playing out of position for 18 years.
You found it. And that's what I love about your whole story is opportunity called. Yeah, you kind of looked at it for what it was, and then you just went after it. It was I try to approach things similar, in my life. It's when an opportunity presents itself, we can't always create them for ourselves. It's everyone I think sometimes wants to create all these opportunities for themselves. A lot of times they're presented to us in different ways, and how do we seize that? I try to tell my kids that all the time. I'm like, just when that opportunity comes out in front of you, you need to see it and you need to go and attack it and do the best with it that you can. And if you fail, then we fail and we try again. It's can't be afraid of that.
100%. And I think, all of us are faced with that, and that's the thing. I think that's the overarching, there's no difference between, the mindset that you've had to create around those things and the mindset I've had to create. And that's across the board. I think to your point, it's the recognition of that opportunity and that ability to kind of, take those things on and not take them personally. That's back to that whole idea of ego conversations as saying I'm a forward. I score goals, instead of saying, hey, maybe I have an opportunity to play. Maybe I should listen to somebody that I knows that knows a little more about the game than me. Now that should help me make a better decision instead
I think
no, that's not me.
Yeah, exactly. And then I don't want to bring up stuff where there may be somebody critical of your game or different things, but it was listening to it as well. It's you hear these coaches and for you going through that, it's Jay is pretty raw. We got to do that. And it's but then you're hey, I can adapt and adjust. And it's I'm only raw in this moment, but I learn really quick, So you really took what they said and you can tell that you put that, that identity behind it and kind of push your ego to the side. And you're okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. I'm going to adapt and do this a certain way. And I'm going to become the best version of myself. And I love just your journey and your story, how that happened so many times. And then, so, that kind of leads me to that next piece where it's you went from college and you had a great, college career, and you were hoping for an MLS shot and to stay in the States and do all that, just kind of get in the door, and, that wasn't happening. And so you took a leap of faith and you headed to England.
Yeah, which again at the time everyone's like, you don't even get drafted in your own home country, let alone go into the biggest soccer jungle on the planet. So yeah, my whole life I've been pushing up against the naysayers and people that think I can't do things. And again, that comes from this kind of inner drive, but it also comes from this whole idea to pay attention. And I think at the end of my college career, again, I had hopped a lot of really good college soccer players, and I was honorable mention All-American, Division I. So technically, I was top 200 players within the whole country, and so I was looking at that. I wasn't looking at some academy club sheet that I was never on. That starts the process of how people get drafted, where they're known, what universities they went to. Like, it's a system, and straight up, every sport has a system, and I just didn't come from it. And so, again, knowing myself and knowing everything that I had, I also looked at the games I played. We made it to, the Sweet 16 my junior year. And so I got to play against Stanford. I got to play against Bradley. And all those guys were MLS players. Guys from both those teams got drafted. And I remember in both of those games, I marked those players and shut them down. And so I look at those two beta games and I go, hey, look at those guys playing for the New England Revolution, Chicago Fire. And I can't remember who the guy from Stanford, I think he got drafted to Colorado. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at those three guys that are playing in the league as rookies, second years. And I'm going, those guys are playing. I swear I am as good or better than those guys. And I got almost limited to zero experience as to what they have. So I'm looking at that kind of beta information and I'm going, okay, now I look at my actual information and opportunity, and that's 2 walk-on tryouts for the Milwaukee Rampage in like the US, what would be now the USL 2 or 1.
Love it.
Yeah. And I had like another invitation to stay in the PDL, which is the Professional Development League, which was the Chicago Fire Reserves. Okay. So I had these 2 opportunities in the States, but I also knew that let's just say I make either of those, I'm going to be at walk-on level MLS contract, 18 to 21K a year, sucked up for 3 to 4 year contracts. So I'm like, at that time going, I might as well go be a designer. I just got a design degree. I have a degree in industrial design. I can make 40 out of college and go do something else. If it was about
you can almost do anything else and make more than that. Yeah,
exactly. And so for me, I just weighed up all the options. Again, my last year in Chicago, I played with an English kid that was moving back to London. So I had an opportunity to go to London and live in his attic for free. And again, I looked at those opportunities, and then I started looking into like European soccer and the English football pyramids. And so I'm going, holy shit, like there's 96 professional teams in 4 divisions in one place that I can take one bus to. That's kind of cool. That's a unique opportunity. And I've never been to London, and I know what football is like over there. So A, I'm going to go check that out. B, I have a free roof to stay in over right now to really try to, make my dream a reality, but also at the end of the day, have a concentrated environment of eyeballs that can really allow and let me know if I'm good enough. Like that's kind of the way that my mindset worked on that opportunity. And I didn't even think about the States as an option. I was like, I know the direction I'm going in this system that's kind of not even looking at me anyway. So like, I'm not going to give that time and energy. I'm going to go give the big environment first, where that light at the end of the tunnel is so much bigger. But I also know I'm in the back of the line, no matter what line I'm standing in. And so I got to take that mindset in from a humility standpoint and go, okay, what line do I want to stand in? Yeah. Is it this one that is in America where like long-term vision? Yeah, I get it. But like, I'm looking at England and I'm going, okay, this one seems way more ideal if I can make it. I know it's going to be harder. I know that line is longer, but I know that there's something inside me that feels like I should challenge that environment, and I'm ready to go and do that and get some life experience along the way.
Well, and just to put it into perspective for everyone listening of how long that line is that you're talking about. I mean, by this point in your life, you're 21, 22 years old, yeah. And you're trying to go over to England where people are standing in that line on these teams, already signing contracts at 8, 9, 10 years old. And that's currently still the same thing. So you could sign a contract to be with a club in their academy, working all the way up to potentially be on the first team if you're, a rare talent at 16, 17, 18. It's not rare to have guys that are starting regularly at 19 to 22 years old. and you're already 22 years old. So like, I just let that sink in for everyone listening of how long this line is that Jay is talking about.
Not to mention I'm an American from Green Bay, Wisconsin.
It's everything is against you. The stigma of an American coming over to play. I would like to throw it out there that I do recall in the Rise and Shine documentary that you were at one point Sunday Pub League substitute. So again, the line gets longer and longer. It's just him and his friends in the pub league, and you had to start out as a sub, and then literally 2 years later, you're at Watford. You're the captain of Watford. You end up scoring an amazing goal in the finals of the playoffs against Leeds to make it to the promised land of the English Premier League. I mean, it's an amazing journey. Again, how long that line is and how quickly you moved all up to it just because of your work ethic. And like you said, it was one of those things like you kind of have to put your ego aside, but partially I feel like you have to just literally move it to the side. You don't have to put it away. You just have to like be able to run with it next to each other because like you have to know that like I'm good. I know I have to know that I can do this. You have to have like that mental fortitude. Mm-hmm. And to see that line and to be able to, literally run past it and cut to the front is incredible. Just
and that's kind of
who you are and what you're doing.
In all honesty, like I remember those times and I still very, very clearly understand the mindset that I had. And to your point, this whole ego conversation, in my opinion, like ego is something we all have and we all have to work with. We can't push it. To your point, you can't push it aside. You got to work with it. But in my ego conversations, you can't let the ego be the driver. You can live with it. You can sit next to it. But when it starts driving, then we're in trouble. When you have humility built around that ego process, again, which I had to have, there's no way I could walk into those environments and have an ego. There's no way. You can't do that. And so with that, I do find that there's also a limited difference between ego and confidence. But the confidence now comes from this ability to, I'm watching guys in the MLS playing that I know, not only that I know from my coaches, my teammates, but every one of those three guys that I just talked about came up to me after the games and said, man, I thought I thought you played really well. Well done. So I have those guys validating my experience too. It's not just me and my ego. I'm getting validation from coaches, like not fans, because there's not that many people at the games in those worlds. But then you have players, your teammates, and then you have the opposition. And if all of those things are giving me confidence in the right level because they're saying, I thought you played really well. I thought you did great. Did you know that guy's playing in the MLS last year? You crushed him last year when we played Bradley or at Stanford, like that kind of stuff. And so that's all I'm listening to. I'm not listening to, you can't do that. You're going to England. You didn't even get drafted. How are you going to make it? I'm not listening to any of that stuff. And I'm listening to the people and the feedback that allows me to continue to create the confidence that allows me to walk into those environments and actually succeed. And I think we need to turn off our ears at times to people that either don't know what they're talking about or don't have enough information for them to actually create a valid opinion. And I think that's one of the ways that I was really trying to navigate that part of my life. And really, who do you trust? Who do you believe? But at the end of the day, if you have a lens in your own version of this story built around humility and a quiet confidence of understanding what you've done before, then you can go out and prove people wrong, but at the same time, really prove yourself right. And that was my goal. It wasn't to prove people wrong. I'm never a prove you wrong person. I believe I can do this. In my information and my experience so far, I believe I'm capable of this. Now go out and do it for yourself because you need to prove to yourself that you can. And I think that's always been one of my base mindsets of why I've been able to kind of each challenge along the way, all the way up to the World Cup level. My mindset never changed in that environment.
Love that. Yeah, you just hit on the World Cup there a little bit too, and so I want to kind of transition to that piece of it, and obviously playing in the Premier League, going over to England, all of that, and then for me personally, playing in the NFL and playing American football for so long, never being able to represent my country, as a football player, I think now Olympics, we're getting flag football, which, is.
I don't think they need kickers in that though. I'm pretty sure.
Oh gosh.
but you're an athlete.
Why you
But
gotta?
you're an athlete.
Why you gotta dog me there? Gosh,
You would have been great. You would have been great. You could have been.
I played free safety in high school. Let's not forget that.
The world never forgets.
Okay, forced fumble, Cordell Patterson.
Oh,
how many tackles do I have? I don't know. We can Google that, so I don't know. I don't want to just throw out a random number, but I think
we should. I think we should give an over under.
I average probably 2 to 3 tackles a year. In my NFL career, which is good or bad.
Is that a brag though? Like that is kind of like a bad thing in a way. But
that's what I don't know if it's good or bad. But
I don't know.
Early on, I definitely got down the field more, and like I'd tackle people like inside the 30s. So it wasn't like they were just running free and I'm like retreating. But later on in my career, it was self-preservation. I would literally just please somebody else get them. Like I don't want to get hit anymore. Like I'm 14 years in the league. It's like, y'all do your jobs, but that's but anyways, I digress. Talking about like the national team and like what that experience was to be called up to play for the U.S. men's national team here in our country, and I'm gonna slide to the side a little bit because I got the jersey you gave me hanging up on the wall back there.
Jay from the USA.
That's right.
Yeah, that was our World Cup jersey, and for me, this is a culmination of a lot of years. It takes 7 years to be an overnight success, and so for me, it was the goal of becoming a professional was goal number one. Leaving everything I knew to go to England again in a jungle that I had no idea that if I was going to make it or not. But once you do, and then I start playing against the likes of the Boca Negras, the Tim Howards, the Clint Dempseys in those environments, and it was kind of crazy because. I didn't turn pro. I didn't turn pro till I was 23, and I didn't get my first call up till I was 27. So I'm still one of the latest players that has ever got a call up for his national team. And 90% of the youth, the program guys are the ones that get the national team call ups. Yeah. And so, these players have been in the national team setup since they were 14, 15, 16. And then you get to the first team, usually in your mid 20s or early 20s.
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
You get the opportunities in the player pool. And so for me, it was like. There was always this distance of player pool, like in the background. But then I have this anomaly story where all of a sudden I'm a Premier League captain, and I've never played for my national team. So I kind of, in a way, when I hit the ground running with the national team, it was because of that experience. Because, I was very grateful to be able to be in the position I was at Watford, again, which was earned, which was me earning my stripes my first year. We had injuries that allowed me to get my starting spot my first year at Watford. Again, I walked on to Watford. I was on a 1-year, $25,000 contract as a Watford player. And by my first year, I played at Anfield. We had a cup run and got to the semifinal of the League Cup. So I'm walking out at Anfield in like my 20th professional game of my career. But by the end, I'm doing okay in that first season. And then by the end of that season, I get another opportunity to be a starter and to have another good season, which Reese, you said earlier, gets us promoted to the Premier League. And I score a goal, get man of the match in front of 62,000 against Leeds. And all of these things, again, are great confidence builders for me to know at 27 when I get a first call up that I can walk in there and not feel like I need to sit on the bench and not feel like I need to be some new green-eared, rookie on the national team, and in a way that was different for me. And because when my first camp, I remember it was in Dallas and we had a double leg. We played in Tampa and then Dallas in Texas, where I finally got I didn't play the first game. And I remember when I walked into my first camp, and normally your eyes are open. And again, mine were, and again, this is a humility thing, but the first dinner, I come into dinner and Tim Howard, the legends of the team are like, Jay, come sit with us. And I mean, that doesn't happen when you come in on your first cap as a 27-year-old thinking that any team you come into, you sit at the bench or you sit.
Got to earn it, right?
And you shut up and you earn your stripes and you do whatever. So for my national team call-up, it was quite strange. When you walk into your first opportunity at a national team late as hell, and then you actually sit at the front head table, and you become one of the leaders right from the start. And so it was really interesting for me to be able to walk into those environments. But because I was already in a leadership role at Watford. I'd walked teams out at Anfield. I'd walked my team out in some of the biggest environments in English football. So in a way, it wasn't me saying, oh, I don't belong here. It was me saying, wow, I'm glad I'm late to the party, but I'm here now. I'm here to contribute. I'm here to lead. I'm here to be the player that I know I am and validated in those big leagues in this world. So come in with more confidence, come in with an ability to say, I want to hit the ground running with this team. And that really helped me kind of settle in maybe a little bit quicker than maybe some of the newer guys that come in at 2021 and have to kind of wait and do their things, earn their stripes through their clubs, and then earn their stripes for their national team. And so again, I kind of, was the anti-story to that environment, but in a way it was really a unique place for me to learn at the international level, which again is a different beast than even the Premier League, because the national team, you get an amalgamation of 23 guys that come from all over the world, and you get a week and a half to get together, train, and play well against some of the best teams in the world or in some of the biggest world tournaments on the planet. And so that gel time is minimal. That ability to actually know what you're coming in for and the ability to know what you bring to that team, you have to have those things before you even get there, because there's not enough time to gel. There's not enough time for us to go over 3 weeks of tactics or have a preseason to prepare.
Yeah.
It's just, you hit the ground running, and only the guys that are prepared and ready for those environments are the ones that succeed.
Yeah. I always look at it, obviously, I'm a big golfer. So like the Ryder Cup, it's a similar type of thing. I mean, yes. I think, U.S. soccer is obviously evolving and trying to form that identity of, this is how we want to play. This is conceptually what we want to do from the youth level up. But all these other countries around the world have literally it's like Spanish style of play, like English style, it's like they have their styles of play that has been well established for decades, forever. So, and whenever you come up through those systems sometimes, and it's like, I think of it like the Ryder Cup, like whenever we go play Europe, and especially in Europe, it's like they just know, they grow up playing match play. Like golf is match play. So it's like all these certain events that American sports are involved in, we need to sometimes, I think, really dive into that youth side of it and have a more focused development coming up through that. I do think that's happening. As we see it, it's like, all right, we want to compete at a higher level in all these world, on these world theaters. What do we need to do? And that's just like any education. And, we'll segue to this because I want to make sure we hit on some different things regarding your foundation and stuff like that. But it's like going back and education, we got to go start with our kids, the young people in this, in this world, and make sure that we're educating them in all these things in the right way so that they can carry this forward for future generations and make sure that, our world is better than how we leave it, whenever we're gone someday. So I do want to, I want to segue to that. And Reese, we're gonna go to a couple little fun pieces, and Reese is gonna give you a few hard hitting questions here, and I want you to give your first quick answers. Do you have 3 questions, Reese?
I can have as many as Jay's ready for.
Reese is a tough question, guys. So he's gonna hit you with a couple questions here, and just give the first answer that comes up off the top of your head.
Just like the British media.
Yeah, exactly.
That's actually that's a great.
That's what we're doing.
I won't be as critical. Don't worry, but it'll be fine. So one of the things that kind of prompted it was Harry Kane wants to, if he retires from football, then try to go be a kicker in the NFL. 2-part question on that. If you were a kicker in the NFL, how far of a field goal do you think you can make right now?
Right now, probably 45, 50. My left leg, I got one Achilles and a one peroneal tendon in my left leg. That's my plant leg.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if I'm getting that drive I need to.
You're just going to slide through a little bit? Just kind of
exactly. You got to hit that, what it's like. And so it's, I think 45, I think I could hit from now. I just comfortably, but 50, I think would be more difficult, I think, now, but Prime Jay, probably, yeah, 50. I think again, I grew up kicking field goals, and so I think I have a little bit more knowledge as to how to actually do it.
I love it.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, I was the field goal kicker on my Bayport High School team, and I think I was 9 for 9 my freshman year.
I love it.
Amazing.
We got to find some of that video. I remember the last time you were at Titletown, you sent me a video kicking a field goal right there on that field.
Yeah, well, we brought the Japanese Packers cheering team to Lambeau, to
exactly.
one team Japanese, and we brought them and had them. And again, Mason, you came out and said hi to them
I
at
did.
Lambeau.
That was amazing.
And we brought them out there and taught them how to kick field goals. And it's funny enough, and this is actually a really cool story about that. I was telling this story yesterday, funny enough, Mason.
Oh, really?
The game at home we had 23 Japanese that are all coming. 21 of them couldn't even speak English. And they all came from Japan. And we went like 17 or 21 down to the Bengals at Lambeau at half. We came back, and one of the Japanese Packers cheering team was Mason Crosby's biggest fan. And that's all he could say because he couldn't really speak English. He'd say, I'm Mason Crosby's biggest fan. And he had a number 2 jersey, and Mason signed his jersey and stuff like this. And so
that's right. I remember.
We come back, and the Packers beat, and Mason kicks a field goal to beat the Bengals. I think it was the Bengals in overtime. And we win the game. And so we, of course, as fans, but also, the hosts of the Japanese Packers cheering team, we say it was all Sue. It was all Sue's energy to Mason because it's his favorite player. And he channeled that energy with Mason, his favorite player, and they won the game for us.
He pushed it there. I feel that. I feel it for sure. I mean, I remember that vividly, meeting them down in the end zone of, Lambeau Field, just in awe of the whole experience. And that moment was amazing.
And so we win, and we go to the distillery parking lot across the parking lot from Lambeau. And I start talking to Sue, and I'm like, Sue, have you ever kicked a field goal before? And he's like, no. He was at the field, and we were messing around the other day. So I get a whole front man-to-man line, and we do a full-on mock-up of a field goal so Sue can kick his first ever field goal. So we got literally full squad up, like the full thing, human goalpost, 4 people making the human goalpost fit, 10, 15 yards away. I'm the holder. The snap is good. The kick is up, and the kick is good.
Nice.
And Sue crushes it right through the uprights in the distillery parking lot.
No way.
I pick him up and put him on my shoulders, and we're all going, Sue, and like 30 people in the parking lot, all about Sue kicking his first field goal.
I love that.
That was probably my favorite memory of our field goal kicking experience.
That's it. I mean, I think that's might be the best Lambeau Field Packer story ever. So
that is absolutely epic. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And okay. Tangent there, but I mean, to your point, Mason, I think, when you have these crazy experiences and you're fortunate enough to be in these environments, and you get to do all these things and take on all these adversities, and you get to have a great story to tell. And so therefore, if you have a great story to tell and an experience, you should share it back, in my opinion. I believe that if you're so fortunate to be able to live in these environments where we get to tell these stories, we should tell them, but B, we should make sure that we create programs and curriculums so we can tell them properly, whether that's going to schools, whether that's creating, and again, I'm creating digital programs now that are going to allow this scalability of masterclass type stories, but being able to interact with them and create education around these stories and actually create this give back program, almost like a digital mentorship level where, everyone's story is important. And there's no difference between, the head groundskeeper at Lambeau Field to make Lambeau do what it's supposed to do than yours is to go out in overtime and kick a field goal to win the game. That ability and community allows all of those things to take place. And each of those jobs is important as the next to make sure that environment of community is successful. And these are the stories that we do now through our charities. These are the stories that we do now through my programs, through our Rise and Shine programs, because I've also learned that in my world, when you start to tell those stories, when you surround them with other people that have the similar stories as you can create a community environment where everyone is important, but yet our stories are very subjectively different. But that mindset in between, that community fabric in between, and that willingness to give back becomes really the next important part of how you can give it back to the next generation, share the stories that make them inspired enough to give their shot. And then from there go, how can we help you? How can we create a better community together? and then honor the people's stories. You know, and again, Reese, with your wife and the ability for you to now stand in front of that story and for you to share about the stories and the things that make you happy and things that make you, you know, still remember her in a positive way is your way of giving back, because your story is important and how you do that. And this is how we as a community come together. And now we create a better version of how we do this together. And I that's my mission now.
Yeah, and you're spot on. That's actually something that we want to, you know, bring to this show on a, you know, regular basis, is talking about how to live life on purpose. And that's exactly what you're explaining. And a little bit of background on that is, part of my story is I'm a widower. I lost my wife to ovarian cancer when she was 30 years old. And her name was Brittany, and she had this saying, live life on purpose. So that can mean different things to anyone. That can be starting every day with a dance party, you know, laughing so hard that you cry. Basically, it just means getting out of your comfort zone at times as well, like feeling the fear, jumping in, going for it, no matter what. Kind of one of the quotes that we took from that is from a pastor named Mark Batterson, and he says, "You're one idea, one risk, one decision away from a totally different life. Of course, it'll probably be the toughest decision you've ever made, the scariest risk you ever take. But if your dream doesn't scare you, it's too small." And so basically what our life was about was finding purpose, because we're not promised any length of life, but we can do something about the width and the depth of it. So what you're talking about with your Rise and Shine camps and how you're giving back, like that is living life on purpose. You know, what we do, our professions, those can be impactful, but it's how we can use them for better. And I know Mason's worked with Make-A-Wish for a long time in Wisconsin, as well as, you know, the Locker, our family foundation in Texas, and then you with Jay with your Rise and Shine camps. It's stuff like that that is really, that's what's important in life. All these fun things we talk about, all these great experiences are fantastic, but they're stepping stones to making a difference. So I'd love to hear more about, your Rise and Shine camps and a little bit about that. And, you know, any other endeavors that you have coming up that you'd like to, you know, share that is meaningful on your heart.
Sure. And, you know, for me, it was like, I run these camps every summer, and I've done them in Green Bay, and I've done them kind of satellite around, but it's kind of like taking your traditional youth program and turning it on its head. So, you know, everything from any youth development program right now is subjective. And so if your daughter's good at dance at 12 years old, some dance academy is going to call and be like, hey, come to this dance academy. You can pay $1,000 a year, and we're going to get you a dance scholarship to some university, or we're going to get you an opportunity to do something or whatever. Right. So, and then all of a sudden, okay, cool. Let's support our daughter and go to dance, or let's support our son to go play soccer or football or whatever it is that youth program is. And then that youth program very quickly says, oh, by the way, youth, you're only in our program, and you can't play basketball on Wednesdays. You can't go to the art camp on Saturdays. You can't dance on Sundays. You are part of this pay-to-play program that allows you to grow up to be one thing that you probably won't end up being in the first place. And so with that, it becomes this whole, in my opinion, problem of how we as developers, curriculum builders, you know, mentors to the next generation go, well, how are we going to achieve these dreams? What is your dream for one? And if we're going to single-handedly say that that's the one dream, we're setting 99% up for failure, for an identity crisis way too late in their life. And so for me, as I came out of the game, because I come from that holistic environment, because I had 9 jobs, have a college degree in design, before I even had stepped one foot on a professional soccer field, I realized in those moments of growth, in my own ability to, your point, live on purpose, allowed me to understand what I wanted at 19, 20. To understand that I can take confidence in myself because of these soft skills that I've been able to develop, because I have a mindset that's my own, instead of somebody else telling me to be something or be somebody else most of my life, but I've paid for that experience. Like, imagine if we can create a program that I can teach you soccer. Mason can teach you, you know, how to kick a field goal. The head chef at the restaurant can teach you how to cook. The engineer from EA Sports can teach you how to design video games. And the head of CEO that just sold their company for $100 million can say what that's like. Now imagine you could create a program where all those places exist in one place and all those people exist in one place. And you can have access to all of them and their stories in a gamified level, which is the next generation they want to play. They want to be on their
exactly.
But now we keep it in a positive realm. And the cool thing is that when we launch at the end of the year, EA is our founding partner, the biggest video game company in the world. They're our first investor and partner.
Awesome.
We have Apple developers that are developing it right now. And by the end of the year or beginning of 2025, we're going to have a masterclass for kids that's free, that allows people to understand unique stories of prominence and adversity and all the things, because we understand. And again, just across the board, even on this Zoom right now, all of us have very different ways to inspire the next generation, but none of us are different in that message. It's not. It's just the coordination and the curation of your individual message that allows you to give back your story on purpose. And that's the idea, is to amalgamate that community, make it online so it's accessible to anyone, anywhere, and it's free. Now imagine what you could do. Imagine the people you can learn from. Imagine these environments that you can put yourself into by never even leaving your own couch. And that's the goal. The goal is to inspire kids from their couch, from their devices, for free, that allow them to get outside, allow them to go to their local field and kick a field goal because Mason taught them how to do it. Or they learn how to defend the way that I want to because that's my challenge. I do footwork and I'll tell them how to do it. Or how do you approach Messi as he's running at the ball? Like, we can do these things all online right now. All I got to do is need a camera and a field to show people how I did it. So therefore they can try it and show us that they can do it too. And so with that now becomes the inspiration. With that now becomes the confidence that they'll build by having a multitude of skill sets as they develop from 10 to 20. And then imagine at 20, imagine the mindset that they might have by participating in a bunch of other people's realms to say, I'm actually more like this. And now I have a greater confidence to step into this world and actually be who I am. And so that's really what the program is, and why we're trying to create a scalable model, but then also run them in person in the summers, which I do here in British Columbia. And we have DJ camps, leadership camps, and soccer camps. And so,
Awesome.
It's not just sport based. It's mentorship and leadership based, and the rest of the skills are just bonus.
Awesome, man. Well, So anyone interested in this, obviously check it out. Where can they go to find, your information on this?
I mean, all my social medias are at D6 Merit, and our programs are called Rise and Shine. If you type in any of that, RXS Mentorship is our website for all the camps and stuff like that.
I love it.
We do a lot of online mentorship. We do a lot of different things, working with lots of different kids. I work with inner city programs, First Nations programs, and our programs and our fundraisers allow us to find those kids in these underserved communities and bring them up to our programs for free. So they get to, and it's funny when you get, what I also think we're lacking in this is this true social experiment again. Back when we used to go to the YMCA when we were little, we could play basketball, we could kick field goals outside, you could do art in the art room, but name a place that does that right now.
Yeah. Oh,
for 14-year-olds.
Exactly. No, exactly.
No one goes to the Y anymore, and your kid is in a specialized program that tells them to do one thing. And so we're losing that social environment too, where First Nations kids, downtown East Side kids, and suburb kids from the middle class are all in the same place talking about the same thing. That doesn't exist. And so can we create those environments? And that's our goal, is to kind of recreate this, in my opinion, very broken youth system.
Well, man, Jay, we're gonna try to wrap it up here, but man, that was awesome. It was a pleasure to have you on. I mean, your leadership, your motivation in these spaces, and just talking about your journey and little Packer football. I do want to finish with a kind of quick sport thing, and I want to get your prediction on what you think the Packers and how they're going to be this year. I want to know who you think is going to win the Champions League final, and who's going to win the Copa America and the Euros. So it's your floor. Just tell me what you think the Packers are going to do and go down the list.
I liked our draft. I think our defense, with the couple pieces we've added and adding a couple more years to the experience of a young defense, is going to really solidify us. I think all of us were pleasantly surprised. We saw Jordan Love's talent. I didn't think it happened so fast, in all honesty. Watching him become the player he already is was a very pleasant and awesome surprise. And his leadership, I think I can see, as someone that really builds leadership and knows it, I see his leadership and now the respect he's gaining to the players on both sides of the ball.
For sure.
I think walking into his second season as a starter is a great confidence builder for him to walk in at game 1, not game 7 or 8. This is like
exactly.
Did in this season. So I'm actually really excited. I think we got a great chance to win the division, and when we do that, then we set up home field throughout, which we know that Lambeau is a hard place to win. So I think.
So what's your prediction for the record?
They play 17 games.
Yeah, 17 game season. Just if you were wondering,
we'll go 13-4.
Ooh,
there we go.
Maybe 12-5.
All right.
I think. Yeah, I'm thinking either NFC Championship.
Okay.
I think is a good goal.
I like it.
Super Bowl is always a bonus for me. I mean, I don't know. I know how hard it is to get through all the rounds. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous to think that, Super Bowl every year. Like, I get it, but it's the same thing. Like, I'll move. So I'll say that, and then I'll move to the Copa America because I know how hard it is to win a Copa America.
Yep.
I got to
what is it like? No North American team has ever won it. It's always South America. So yeah,
2007, I got to play against Messi the first time. He was still wearing number 19 at the time. So I got to play in one. It's very hard to play against those types of South American teams. They're very good teams. We're used to playing Central American teams, which region. Again, don't get me wrong. The Central American teams are now good too. The good thing about world football is that the standard is so high now that Costa Rica can be in a top 25 in the world. Like,
right.
That wasn't happening when I was around. That's for sure. But now that see world football go up, which is great. I think having a tournament in our home stateside is always great for the growth of this game. So our national team will continue to get stronger. I do see us getting out of our group. I don't think we're gonna get any closer than the quarterfinal in the Copa. But I do think that if we do make it to the quarter or semi, it's gonna set us up massively for the World Cup because a lot of these young players in the national team. What I first wanted to see was them stepping into their club roles and being leaders and contributors at their clubs, which I've now seen, which I like for this team. Because when you're 22 and you're at a club in Europe, that's cool. Good job. You're on a team sheet and you're a part of the player pool. But that's what I think happened in the detriment to the last World Cup, is that these guys were good young players, but they didn't know how to lead throughout a whole tournament. They hadn't been there from their clubs to know how to transfer that into a world tournament in the summers. That's really hard to do with a bunch of players that sit on the bench some of the years that might have a good resume. But again, you got 1.5 weeks to come together and beat the best teams in the world. That's really hard to do if you are not in an already leadership and mindset that allows you to walk into those experiences and play well together. But I see this team now. They've had a couple years now, good young pros playing at Chelsea, Juventus, Bayern Leverkusen. These are the clubs across the country and the world that are now having Americans that aren't just on the squad. They are contributing, they're starting, they're winning trophies. This now transfers into a good national team. And so that's what I like about our national team moving into the Copa and the eventual World Cup. So I do like it. And then what was the third one?
Well, I think that those two are some really, those are the big ones that I think we're going to be watching, mostly. So I love your take on that. And I think, I totally agree with you. And it's awesome to hear from you with your experience and all that. And then obviously being a lifetime growing up in Green Bay Packer fan and just hearing your take on how you view it and what you think. It's so much fun. And, it's playing there for so long, hearing just all of the, it's like you get the media, but every fan, every person just has like a really definitive way that they view the organization and how it's going to be. And but you well said with your take on that. And I love getting all that both sides of it between the football, American football world and the world football world and how that connects. And you were a perfect first guest for this. And I just want to tell you thank you and appreciate so much you coming on. And I can't wait to have another discussion around this, at some point. But thanks a lot, Jay. I really appreciate you.
Likewise, guys. No, I jumped at the opportunity to talk to the Crosby boys anytime, anywhere. And we'll keep in touch and say hi to your parents. I met them many moons ago now in Green Bay, and the Crosbys are a great family. And continue the great message, guys. And as always, thanks for having me, and we'll see you soon.
All right, thanks.
Heck yeah, thanks, Jay.
Cheers, guys.
Kicking it with the Crosbys.
There it is. USA.
USA.
Awesome.